Hey friends, I'm Hardy with Ninja Everyday, and this is another edition of our Masters of To-Shin Do video series. And I'm here with James Kentoshi Norris from Cincinnati Quest Martial Arts. Mr. Norris, thank you for taking some time to talk to us.
Pleasure.
I'd love to ask you some questions about your martial arts journey and some of the things that you've experienced in your career. Can you tell us how you got started in martial arts and To-Shin Do in general?
Well, I started in martial arts. I started in a karate system when I was 11. It was a nearby place, and the guy was teaching at a local high school, and so I started there and loved it. And, it was right about that time, at the same time I started hearing about Mr. Hayes, too. I was probably about 11 or 12 when I first read one of his books.
Okay.
And as soon as I read one of his books, I was told all my friends, I want to be one of his black belts. I want to be one of his instructors, And all my friends said, whatever, you're insane. But when I was out of high school, kind of on my own, then just kind of out of nowhere, one of my friends reminded me, I was talking about going on vacation somewhere, and where should I go on vacation? A friend of mine was like, doesn't Stephen Hayes do seminars? I was like, yes, he does. And so I went to one of them, and I was hooked.
Yeah. Well, in your after you got hooked, you wound up moving to Ohio, and you were fairly young. Tell us about that transition from Washington State moving to Ohio.
I was living in Washington State, training there, and I've been traveling. It's been about a good 3 years, I think. I've been traveling out here to Ohio for seminars, and I was so intrigued by what he was doing that twice a year wasn't enough. I needed more. I was intrigued by the idea of this To-Shin, this how do I become this completely, fully actualized human being? And the karate system I was in, it talked about growing as a person, but there was no real path. It just sort of happened or it didn't.
Okay.
But this was a path, and I saw that in the seminars, and so I had to do it. So I was 24, and threw all the stuff in the back of a U-Haul. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to live. I figured it would all work. So drove out here and then made it happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In your time in To-Shin Do, did you have or have you experienced, and I'm sure you have, a low point, an injury, some sort of frustrating moment, and what did you do to overcome that?
A few different low points. Been training long enough that I've hit a few of those, and mostly wasn't health related. It was more on the inside.
Okay.
Something about the training was frustrating me. I wasn't growing the way I thought I was, or some other external thing. And maybe it was time to be done. And I think a couple things got me through it. The main thing was I didn't feel like my individual growth was done. So that, again, that idea of To-Shin. Yeah, okay, this is frustrating me, but my goal of being this, fully actualized person, all the areas in my life are successful. Didn't feel like I was there yet. So that motivated me to keep going. And also at that time I was teaching and feeling like I was providing value to other people. And now those two things just kind of got me over the hump, yeah.
Okay. If you could go back and talk to that white belt in To-Shin Do version of James Norris, would you have any particular advice you would give yourself?
Yeah, I think the big one would be ask more questions. Because, I was really good, still I'm really good at absorbing information and processing it, but tended to be a little more passive, just, even more so back when I was younger, a very reserved person, very, just let it happen, and I absorbed it all. And it was great. I got a ton out of it. But I could have been more personal earlier in my training and should have been.
Okay. Do you have any advice for somebody new to To-Shin Do now in terms of maintaining and maximizing their longevity in the training? How do they train to stay safe and stay healthy and keep going well into their years?
I think train slow and train mindful. The more of those two things you do, the more you're going to get out of each moment, and the longer you'll be able to train. Everybody, especially when they're younger and they first start, they want to train hard and fast. And there's a place for that in the training, without a doubt. But if you do it too soon or for too long, then it wears you out and you miss all the important little lessons. So, train slow and train mindful, and you'll get more out of it, and you'll find the appropriate time and place for the hard and fast training.
Now, you obviously have spent a lot of your training time with Andrew Stephen Hayes. Do you have any other like really influential teachers or even influential students that were like kind of high points or important figures in your training?
Oh man, there's so many. Yeah, so I mean, even some of my first karate teachers, when it was my direct instructor, but he was the head of my karate system, a guy named Walter Todd, who at the time was one of the highest ranked judo and aikido practitioners in the country. And man, just the way he moves, some things he said, and my 20-year-old self really clicked. All the way to recent training with Masad Ayub in terms of firearms and his process, sort of the Stephen Hayes of legal self-defense, and the way he processes things. And so many, and I think that's really important. Find one instructor that you really click with and work well with, but yeah, find others as well that can get you the information you're looking for.
Okay. If somebody out there is considering starting martial arts and looking at all of the ones on the table and they come across To-Shin Do, is there anything that you would tell them specifically about this art that you feel like they should know to make an informed decision?
Yeah, I think the first thing is what's your purpose? What do you want to honestly get out of the martial arts? And once you recognize that, then it's easier to kind of explore the different options. And the cool thing about To-Shin Do is we pretty much have all of it. We're not a hardcore competition martial art, although some folks use it in competition. But there's so much that we have. So what do you really, really want to get out of the martial arts? And then talk to the local To-Shin Do instructor. And can you get that from their school? Said the cool thing is To-Shin Do is so broad, and I think that's one of the appeals, and maybe another reason why I keep staying with To-Shin Do. Out of all the martial arts, I've dabbled in lots and lots of them, but I keep coming back to this. I can't quit. I can't go away because I've yet to find another martial art that is what I would call the complete picture. Really authentic self-defense training, rich, deep history, and the internal, a pathway to being an even more authentic, as we talked about today, more authentic you, or more powerful you. Some martial arts are really good at one or the other, but to have all of those in one package, I haven't found a more perfect union of them anywhere I've looked.
Do you have any training goals that are driving you or motivating you right now?
It's obviously changed over the years, depending on my focus. Personally, right now, my personal goal right now is to go through a little bit more of the history and kind of make sure that I own more of that as going through. But I didn't start out alternately focusing on the real world self-defense. That was not my motivation when I got started. It was more on the inside. But as I get older and I see my students, I think it is very important to continue keeping this real and honest for our students. And so that's become more of a passion for me. And as I said, some of the legal self-defense that I've worked with Masada Ayub on, and making sure that's a part of what we do. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, how can folks out there find you and train with you?
Well, my school is in Cincinnati, Ohio, so if you're there, CincinnatiQuestCenter.com would be the best way to find us and contact us.
Fantastic. Well, Mr. Norris, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Everybody out there, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more of these videos coming up very soon. And until then, Ninja every day.